Hey everyone and welcome. You're listening to the next episode of Turn Zero Drive Home Edition. This is a solo Marvel Snap podcast where I talk about the latest info you need before you start the first turn of a game while I drive home from work. I'm your host August and let's drive home. So we're just days away from the newest Marvel Snap season, data mine to be about dragons. Normally by now we would have the developer video, so we'd be able to see like confirmation on what's happening. Due to the holidays, they told us we're not actually going to be seeing it until Monday the 5th, so just a day before the season starts. So all the stats and abilities that I'm going to be talking about today, the new cards, are going to be from data mines. So what that means is that there is still like one more window of opportunity where these cards can change. It turns out we're going to be having a patch on the same day as the new season on Tuesday. So it is possible that this patch could change a couple smaller other things to these cards. But as of right now, we're not too sure about that. So we'll just go through what we have, and then we can talk about where these cards are going to fit, what these cards are going to be like. As always, I'm also going to have my snappy review article on SNAP.FAN. So that's where we'll be able to have a bit more of a concrete like rating on these cards. I'm still kind of working them out in my head. That's also kind of what this podcast is for too. So we'll see like where I'm thinking at with these new cards coming. The first one is probably one of the most exciting ones for a lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of chatter about Xiao the Undying. So Xiao the Undying, 5/8, on reveal, give the last character you played +3 power for each turn you played 2 or more cards. This is the Season Pass card. This card looks absolutely stellar. I think we're going to see a meta revolving around this right away on Tuesday. There's a lot of decks that already want to play more than one card a turn. Cards like Merlin and Prowler are definitely going to fuel this guy, as well as it looks like intentionally designed synergy with Kitty Pryde. It looks like between Xiao and another card coming out on Tuesday, they're gonna want you to. They're trying to incentivize this card, Kitty Pryde, to keep being played over and over again. And Xiao is definitely going to be the kind of thing that procs off that. Whether Kitty specifically is going to be good, or it's more about generically playing multiple cards. Note that it says like cards that are being played and not characters. Xiao itself will only buff a character, but it counts the amount of cards. So you can use skills, which is why I mentioned Merlin and Prowler. I think those are going to be the key ones, just for having one cost skills that you can just spam out over the course of multiple turns. I think that's where you want to be looking with this guy. The other winner with Xiao here is Maverick, because if you can find a way to play Xiao to buff your own Maverick, and then you can use Maverick to pass those buffs along again, like I think that's going to be a big strategy there. So between Maverick and Merlin and Prowler, I feel like we're going to see some kind of mid-rangey deck that looks on having some big 5s and big power that you can spread, power that you want to repeat a couple times. This +3 scaling is huge. We've seen that time and time again, that +3 scaling is something to take a close look at. I think the latest we had with that, it was like Galacta, where it specifically said, +3 on the next card you play. Those kind of things, when you can do that multiple times, you're really stacking up the buffs there. Not that means +3 is always bad for the game, but definitely it's worth looking at a few times. And I think Xiao has got the body to make it work. Like a 5/8, in fact, it used to be 5/10 if we remember from older data mines. So the fact that it used to be 5/10 and they brought it down to 5/8 really means that they are understanding that the scaling is going to be really key. But yeah, so excited for him. I think this is going to be a great card. One of the best of the season for sure. The next one that we have coming up is Dragon of the Moon. So Dragon of the Moon is the premium season pass card. It's a 3/2. On reveal, steal 1 power from even costed cards in all hands. They kind of nodded a little bit to this guy in the last OTA notes. In those notes they mentioned they buffed Master Mold, the one that puts 2 Sentinels in your opponent's hand, and they mentioned that that was because of an upcoming synergy with a new card. This would be that card, because if you're putting even costed Sentinels into the hand and then you're stealing power away from it, like that's how you're ensuring that you have multiple targets to hit. If that's the best thing we can do with Dragon of the Moon, I am not excited. Like, and for being the super premium pass card, this is probably the first season since they started doing those where I'm honestly debating not getting it, because I'm not seeing it with this card. I've heard some unironic / ironic chatter of it being a Surfer card, but I think that Surfer has a lot better tools than like this card here. The math on stealing is always good. You know, if you're stealing 1, then you're decreasing them by 1, but you're also gaining 1 yourself, so you're kind of doubling up on the power differential there. But it just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that you're going to get a big number out of. Like, maybe if you're the one loading up, making sure you have a bunch of even costs in your hand, but then you're just stealing from yourself. And if you're playing an only odd cost deck for theme reasons, or just to make sure you maximize the profit on this guy, you're not in control of what even cost cards are on your opponent's hand. So I'm just all around a miss for me. We'll see how this one ends up turning out. The Series 5 release for the first week is going to be Lockheed 2/1, end of turn. If you played a 1 cost card this turn, afflict an enemy here with -2 power. So this is the one I was talking about earlier that they seem to have designed expressly for Kitty Pryde. For those that don't know, the theme of this is that Lockheed is Kitty Pryde's pet dragon. So in a few of the Kitty Pryde variants, you'll see that she's got like a dragon on her shoulder. That's who this character is. So they specifically make it work by proccing off of playing a 1 cost, which you would do every turn with Kitty Pryde. You also don't have to play it on the same location as Lockheed. So it's not like Angela, where you have to play it on the same lane to activate it. It's more like Thena, where you just have to play it in the turn. The -2 does happen specifically where Lockheed is, though. So, like, let's say Lockheed is in location 1, and I played Kitty Pryde in location 2. It'll proc Lockheed and afflict 2 on something in location 1. So, not where the kitty is. Again, like I was saying earlier, this I think is more interesting with decks without Kitty Pryde than ones that have it. It's been a long time since Kitty, Angela, Elsa, that kind of strategy has been good. And I'm not sure that Lockheed itself is enough to pump that up. What I'd be interested in is maybe kind of working it into some kind of end-of-turn Invisible Woman deck. Because since this is an end-of-turn ability, you can use Invisible Woman Jocasta to multiply this a bunch of times on the final turn. So as long as you've played a 1-cost card, which you can in those decks with, like, you know, Hydra Bob or Black Cat on the final turn, then, you know, after you've activated your activators, then Lockheed can pop off, right? Like, and that -2 scaling is a bit better than some of the +1 scaling that we see with like Sunspot or Marble Boy in those decks already. So I'm thinking that might be the home that we see Lockheed in rather than, you know, Kitty Pryde decks. The other card, the last card coming out in the first week, is a Series 4 card coming right to the packs as per the data mines. It is Majestic Wing Beat. So this is a 1-cost skill. On reveal, give the leftmost card in your hand +2 power. If it's a 5-cost or higher, -1 cost 2. So this is a little bit of like a random thing. So it's always going to give the left card in your hand +2 power. So if you play this on the first turn, that card on the left, usually the card that you first drew in your starting hand, that's going to get +2 power. If it happens to be a high-cost card, then it also gets -1 cost. So the first thing that comes to mind is how do you make sure you have a high-cost card on the left? So that would be something like Agatha, which always starts on the left, and by reducing it makes it a 5-cost, which means you can play it faster. I don't think that's any better than just using Redshift to discard it right away and bring it back later. Other left cards shenanigans would be stuff like Power Man. Zombie Power Man always discards the card on your left, so you can use that to eat away at some of the cards on the left to get what you actually want on that side. It's not the best strategy, but if you're trying to hit something specific, you are going to need to find ways to sculpt your hand. The card I'm seeing people most excited for with Majestic Wing Beat is Galactus, which if you can hit Galactus on your left card, then it's getting +2 power, so it's going to be a 6/8, and then it's going to reduce down to 5/8, so you can sneak it out a turn earlier than your opponent's expecting. As much as I love Galactus, and those that know how I play know that I'll love a Galactus deck any day of the week, but I don't really think that this is a viable strategy for him. I could be wrong though. We could between this and the other new skills that we've been seeing with Fastball and Adamantium, we could be looking into a skill-based Galactus deck, which would be interesting. But yeah, for a Series 4 card, I don't think it's too bad. I think it'll find a home somewhere. I think as long as you're not trying to depend on the -1 cost and just get that as an extra bonus benefit, the +2 power isn't terrible. So, yeah, it's +2 without taking board space, right? So it's a little different than, like, American Chavez, which we still see being run right now, too. Week two of the season, we get Linley Iron Fist. So this one's a 2/2. On reveal, add the Sword of Fushi to another location. And the Sword of Fushi is also a 2/2, but it's ongoing. If Linley Iron Fist is here, he has +7 power. So he will always put it in another location from himself. It's not random, like out of all three, it's random out of 2. What that means is that you're going to have to find a way to, after playing Linley and generating the sword, you're going to have to find a way to bring the sword to him or bring him to the sword. So usually that's going to involve moving. So we could do things with like Madam Web or Ghost Spider, which will help get that +7 buff on him. But it's going to be taking up a lot of board space to do it. Like, those are just 2/2s. So if you're using, 2 spots for 2 2/2s, and just because one gets +7, we're looking at a power of 11 total over a cost of 3 cards. Not to mention whatever you had, like the third card being whatever you had to bring it over. So it's not looking too great board space wise. The other option though that would help with that is bouncing. So if you picked up one of them with, say, Beast or Toxin, and you could even do some weird shenanigans where you play Linley, you pick him up, play him again, and you have 2 swords out, and then if you pick up one of those swords and move it over, you can kind of find a location where you can stack multiple in. That could be something. I'm not the biggest bounce expert, but I'm not sure what their powers are looking at, like final turn, what the scaling looks like, but I feel like they might be able to do better with like all the different kinds of 1 costs, like Rocket Raccoon and Sable, just off of Torres. But who knows? This might be a better strategy. Them being ongoings also mean you can double up their power that they give Linley with like Moonstone or the Onslaught, right? So like the +7 scaling becoming +14 suddenly makes this the kind of thing you want to build towards. So it's an interesting proposition here. I don't think it's the best card. Like, it's really interesting. It's a very mid-level card to me, but I can see the ceiling being a lot higher than we're thinking. This is the kind of card that people look at and immediately write off and underestimate it, but then it just turns out to be just good stats. And a lot of times good stats is what wins games. After Linley in week 3, we have, if not the most exciting card, definitely the second most, I think. This is Fing Fang Foom. So Fing Fang Foom is a 7/12. On reveal, gain the power of front row enemy cards here. This guy is going to be super big. Anytime you play him, we're talking 7-15 plus, 7-17. So it's gaining power off of the front row in front of you. So that's 2 cards. It's just the first card that's played. It's the 2 there. And if they only have 1 card, then you're definitely winning that lane, right? So no matter what you're doing, you're dropping incredible amounts of power on here. The trick is going to be cheating him out, and I think we've basically solved this already. This is a Hella card. Hella wants the different costs of cards to discard. This is a 7. Lady Sif will always target this, depending on how you build your deck, and then Hello will always bring it out for free. I think this is a slam dunk. I think Stardust is going to be the thing that saves us, because if we're going to be seeing a lot of Hella Foom decks, you're not going to be beating Fing Fang Foom in a lane. That's just not going to work. No matter where it procs out, that lane is won. The only hope you're going to have is you either have Stardust before them so they can't do that, or they accidentally bring back too much power in one location and lose the other two. This is the kind of card that's meta warping. We've talked about, I've brought that up with like Xiao Lao, right? So Xiao Lao offers a bunch of extra power, and it makes you build your deck towards it, and we're going to see the floor of power in the meta game go up because of it, right? If you're not doing +3 scaling, you need to be going higher than that. That's what Xiao Lao does. Fing Fang Foom, on the other hand, is like, I'm going to play a combo deck that always wins this location with Foom. And so if you have a guaranteed one location win, you need to find another way to win another location. We've seen this before with stuff like Prof X and Cannonball, where it's like, if I can guarantee one location and close out the second, then that's done. It's typically seen as unfair, right? Those kind of cards get changed, nerfed, and balance happens, right? But before the balance changes, that strategy is always overwhelming. Fing Fang Fu reads like that to me again. Whereas this is a single lane winner. So as long as you can find a way to win a second lane, you're good. I would watch out for him for sure. On the 4th week, we got 2 cards coming. One of them is Shang-Chi, Master of the Rings. This card has been heavily nerfed, in my opinion, from its previously data-mined state. So it is now a 3/5 with the text game start. The 10 rings start in your hand. On reveal, unlock their potential. We'll get back to that in a second. The 10 rings themselves is a 2/1 with on reveal, give one of your other cards here +1 power. And then when it's upgraded, it becomes a 2/2 with end of turn, give your other cards here +1 power. Okay, so there's a lot of moving parts on this one. So it's a little technical, but we'll break it down here. So Shang-Chi, from the beginning of the game, when you get your pre-game animations, it will give you the 10 rings from other data mines. So I've asked some data miners, people that know how to do this code stuff better than I can. What it appears to be is that the 10 rings will be the first card you draw every game. So when you have your opening 3, it will be the card on the left. It just draws the first card. So it's not an extra card. It's something that it takes away a draw from what you would normally be getting. So that's strike 1, right? Okay. The rings itself, the first ring is just an on reveal to give one of your cards +1. When we first saw data mined, it was an end of turn that only gave 1 card. So even though it only buffed 1 card by +1, it did it multiple times in a game. Now it just does it once. So you have to find a way to draw Shang-Chi, play him after playing the rings to upgrade it, right? So then that becomes the end of turn, give your cards +1. It's a lot of hoops for not a lot of benefit. Not anymore, at least. When it was first data mined, we thought it was going to be this most amazing broken card that we were all scared of. It turns out it's a lot more reasonable. The problem is reasonable isn't exactly great, right? So you want to be putting it in a deck that needs the consistent buffs on the cards to trigger off of things. So things like Sebastian Shaw or like Captain Carter, things that want those consistent extra power to pass that power along. Maverick is the newest example of this. Problem is all 3 of those cards I just described are Silver Surfer cards, so they already have a better way to accomplish this than this new guy here. The other thing that I'm seeing for Shang-Chi 2 here is Wiccan, because what this does is it gives you a 2 to always play. You always have it on the first turn. So that means you don't have to run Domino anymore. So if you have some 1 costs, like, Quicksilver, you can go Quicksilver into the ring, into, hopefully draw your 3 or your other 3 costs there. And I'm not sure if this is going to be great. Maybe in like a Wiccan Thanos deck specifically, because with all the board space that you're filling up with the stones, you can continuously buff those stones. So maybe that's an angle there. This card, like I said, went from being the scary top, like, tier 0 card to just a reasonable, lower middle game card that I'm not too worried about, and I'm not too sure if I'm even going to pick up. The last card that we have data mined for the month, same week 4, but this one is a limited time game mode card. We don't know what the game mode is yet, but we do know that this card, Dragon Lord, is going to be offered there. So Dragon Lord is Series 455. It says, on reveal, put a card from your hand here. So it's kind of like Isan, and kind of like, where it's like it plays a card for you into that location. But Isan specifically looks for created cards, and it happens every turn. Where Dragon Lord is a one-time shot of like, okay, put a random card here. This could be another way that Fing Fang Foom is cheated out. This could be another way that we're cheating out big, like Infinauts. But the problem is that it's random in your hand, so you got to find a way to sculpt your hand, like we were talking about earlier. So maybe you have to discard it out. Maybe this is kind of like a Dracula dump Red Wing kind of card. Those decks kind of live and die by the randomness, so we'll have to see where that goes. But as a Series 4 free card from the game mode, that's pretty good, right? Well, I think that there's something to build around here. I think this guy is has more potential than he looks on face. Other than that, there were 3 other cards that we have names and abilities for, but we don't have release dates. So this is where I run into an issue where I don't have the dev video yet. So we might not get these 3 cards. For those that have been playing the game for a while, you'll remember back in like Spotlight Key era days, we used to have months where they would be like extra cards data mined as well that we just never got, or they came a much later, but they still fit in the theme of the season. So right now we've got the Brand of Shalao, Dragon Breath, and Dragon Man, who have no release date. So we might see these pop up in a game mode, maybe not even this month, maybe next month. Or we might see them, or, by the time you're listening to this, we might get a dev video and we'll be like, oh yeah, it's like second week is this and that, and here's some Series 4 packs. So we might be getting more than just the 8 cards we talked about today. But in case we aren't, check out the data mines on SNAP.FAN. You can see what these cards do, and we'll be able to know when they're coming, if they're worth getting, right? But for now, we won't worry about them too much. We'll just focus on the 8 that we've talked about. Out of those, I think the ones to look for are definitely going to be Xiao Lao and Fing Fang Foom. Everything else after that gets a little niche, gets a little play, like, they're not as generically good. But those other 2 are going to be the dominating force of January, in my opinion. And the reason, specifically the first week with Xiao Lao, I think is important to think about, because there's that official tournament from Snap for January 10th, the Snowball Showdown, where you have to use a card from the last 2 months. And I think Xiao Lao is going to be the kind of thing that overtakes that tournament. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about the new cards coming up. Let me know if anything changes. Go ahead and post in the comments. Tell me about how things were. I hope you guys had a good holiday season. I had. That's why I took a break last week. I intend to keep these going weekly, though. So if you're liking what I'm putting out here, please like and subscribe, because it really helps me get this channel going. I want to add more things here. This new year, I'm going to be putting out a lot more Snap content, and I want to kind of see what you guys are looking for. Anyway, I'll see you all next week. Thanks.